Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Ami Feiner, and together with me is Ari Treger from our pre-sale department. Today's topic is NVR firmware release 1.4.12. This webinar is being recorded, and you can have access to the recording and to the presentation at the end of this presentation. So let's start. This webinar is about 45 to 50 minutes long, 50 minutes long, and let's start. Ari, go ahead.
Thank you, Ami. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. I just want to share my screen. Can you please confirm that you can hear me and you can see my
Yes.
screen, Ami?
Yes, we can, and you can hear you loud and clear.
Shalom.
Good. Okay, so thanks, Ami, and welcome everyone to this firmware release, version 1.4.12. We've got a lot of new and improved features, so let's get started straight away. Let's begin with supported models. So starting with our NDAA NVRs. All our NDAA NVR models with the latest firmware version 1.4.10 will be compatible with version 1.4.12. That includes our NVR models that are currently running 1.4.8, which are the NVR 5 models. If you have non-NDAA models, here's a list of supported NVRs that will receive 1.4.12 as well. But please note that this will be the last firmware update these models will receive. They'll be coming end of life. When can you expect the firmware to be released? We estimate the release date to be mid to end January 2025. We will be phasing the release starting with the NDAA models, followed by the non-NDAA models. Oh, by the way, if you've got any questions, please feel free to write them down in the chat, and we'll answer them after the session, or you can open up your microphone and ask at the end of the session as well. So the first feature is truly a game-changing feature. It streamlines one of the most frequent and potentially frustrating tasks, which is password resets. So previously, we provided two options to restore NVR passwords. One was by answering security questions, and two was by receiving a dynamic password, which you would need to get from technical support or your local partner. Both methods worked, but to improve efficiency, we've now added a third option. And I'd like to introduce to you password resets via email. That's right. Just like your favorite website, if you forget your password, simply enter your registered email address, and you'll receive a verification code directly to your inbox to reset your NVR password in a few seconds. So let's take a deeper look into how this actually works. So to use the new password recovery feature via email, you first need to set up a recovery email address. This can be any email address, and there are two ways to do this. So number one, if you purchase a new NVR with firmware version 1.4.12, the initial setup wizard will prompt you to enter an email address for receiving verification codes for password resets. Right? And the second way is if you update to firmware version 1.4.12, you can do so by going to the accounts and permissions section under the security settings. Sorry, locating security under the accounts and permissions section, and then selecting password recovery settings. From here, you can either enable the feature if it hasn't been previously set up, or you can modify an existing email address if required. Note any changes that you make in this menu will require administrator authentication, like so. Once the password recovery email is set up, the process for resetting your password remains the same. If you forget your current password and you try login, click on Restore Password. The two previous recovery options, like answering your security questions or contacting technical support for a dynamic password, will still be available. but there's a new option, password reset via email, which will be the first choice. You may want to review our privacy statement before continuing, but click OK once you're ready to proceed. You'll be prompted to enter the email address that's been registered for your password recovery. After that, click Obtain. Within a few seconds, you'll receive an email with a verification code. This email will look something similar to this, where it will say your verification code is X, Y, and Z, and this code will be valid for 24 hours. Take that verification code and enter it into the NVR. Once you've done that, the NVR will prompt you to create a new password. So you can put your new password in, and then you can confirm the new password, and you're set. Now the password's been reset, and you can log in with your new credentials and regain full access to your NVR device. So I'm not too sure if you noticed, but it took around 90 odd seconds from requesting the verification code to actually restoring the password. So this method is obviously super quick and efficient, and I'm pretty certain you guys are going to really enjoy it. The next feature is related to object counting analytics, and we have both an improved and a new feature to share. So before diving into the details, let's take a high-level look at object counting analytics. Our AI can count objects, specifically humans, two and four-wheel vehicles. These objects can be counted either by a line crossing or within a predefined area. You can set thresholds, you can set triggers to alert you when those thresholds are met, and you can set automatic reporting for tracking and analysis. However, not all these features could previously be set up directly on the NVR. Some could be configured on the NVR itself, while others required accessing the camera's web interface. So, for example, with object counting by area, this was not available on the NVR interface in previous firmware versions. It can only be set up directly by directly logging into the camera's web interface. With version 1.4.12, you now have the ability to configure area-based object counting directly on the NVR. This includes defining your area, adjusting parameter settings, selecting your detection objects, and even setting your staying thresholds. You can also customize your OSD or your on-screen display, and you can create custom triggers for events when thresholds are exceeded. And lastly, you can also reset the counters manually or automatically, all directly from the NVR. Let's have a deeper look into this feature. So to set up object counting analytics, you'll need to access the analytics setup page just as any other analytic feature. So we head over to settings and we go to analytics and we follow events and analytics. And then we want to select others because object counting is located under the others category. The setup process follows the same straightforward steps as other analytics. Start by choosing your camera you want to configure, and then choose the analytic, in this case, object counting by area. Please make sure that you click the checkbox Enable, and now begin setting the rule parameters. You can define an area within the field of view where the objects will be counted as they enter. You can also decide when you want this rule to be active by setting up a schedule. You can also specify the duration for how long the event should remain active once they occur. And there's also a time threshold feature, which is a valuable addition. The time threshold feature allows you to define how long the threshold must be exceeded before an event is triggered. This helps prevent unwanted events or false triggers caused by brief threshold breaches. So for an example, in queue management, you might be monitoring the number of people waiting in a line. Naturally, people walking through or past the queue could be counted in that area. By setting a time threshold of a few seconds, the system can ignore these brief occurrences and trigger an event only when the threshold is genuinely exceeded, ensuring accurate results. Okay. You can also fine-tune the detection range by setting minimum and maximum object sizes. with the flexibility to define different size ranges for each object. Next, you can decide which objects you want to count. You can select humans, vehicles, or two-wheel vehicles, or any combination of these. Additionally, you can also adjust the sensitivity for each object individually, which obviously allows for even more precise customization if needed. And then you can also set staying thresholds. So staying threshold defines the maximum number of objects allowed in the defined area. And you can also assign different values for each object type. Once your configuration is complete, make sure to click Apply to save the changes. I don't know if you've noticed, but on the top right corner of our analytics, there is an advanced button for object counting by area. It brings up additional configuration options. For example, you could set the counter to automatically reset on a schedule, on a daily schedule, weekly schedule, monthly schedule, at any specific time of the day. Alternatively, you may want to reset it manually, and you can do it also through this advanced menu. Now let's look at how to customize your on-screen display overlay. So with object counting, you have the option to display stats directly on the screen. You can customize the overlay by deciding where the stats appear on the screen, what information is displayed, including customization of labels and messages as well. This ensures that you can highly tailor the presentation of your object counting data. Finally, you can configure a trigger to activate when any threshold is exceeded. And the NVR provides flexible options to customize your responses. And you guys know these options: sending push notification, buzzers, emails, setting up recordings, triggering alarm outputs, activating PTZ presets. And also, you'll see there's a new section here, which is triggering audio alerts through IP speakers, which I'm going to demonstrate later on in this presentation. So that's also an exciting feature to look forward to. So now that we've set up the rule, let's go see it in action. So I've set up object counting rule in this camera, in this area, with a threshold of 3. If that threshold is exceeded, I want the on-screen display to change from welcome to please wait. But then I also want the video to pop up large on my NVR, but it must only pop up about 5 seconds after the threshold has been exceeded. Hence that time threshold delay. So let's see what happens. So right now, there's no one inside, so the stay is at 0. Then we have 3 people walking very slowly towards the area. And when they start entering, the stay count increases to 3. Okay, which is fine. That is the maximum. But when the threshold is met, when the 4th person comes, the text changes, and it waits a few seconds for the time delay, and then we get our notification or trigger from our NVR after that delay. And then when people start leaving the area, obviously start deducting the stay number accordingly. Okay, so that's a very, very cool feature that was previously only on the web interface of the camera. Now we bring it to you on the NVR. Object counting by line was previously available to set up on the NVR, but we had some limitations. So for example, you couldn't set your staying thresholds for objects, and you also couldn't customize the on-screen display. These settings had to be configured exclusively through the NVR's camera web interface. Now, with the ability to set staying thresholds directly on the NVR, you can also use any of the native NVR triggers to respond to these threshold breaches. And also now with version 1.4.12, you can set the intervals to automatically reset the counts or perform manual resets directly on the NVR. So that is also an exciting addition to object counting by line. The next feature is heat mapping. So as some of you may know, our more advanced camera series eyesight are equipped with heat mapping analytics. Before we discuss how this relates to the new NVR firmware release, let me briefly explain what heat maps are. A heat map visually represents the movements and density of objects within a defined area. In ProVision ISR's world, these objects are humans, four-wheel and two-wheel vehicles. Using object recognition AI, the system tracks the location and movement of these objects, storing this data, and you can search this data by date range with results being displayed as a color-coded map overlaid onto your camera's field of view. Now let's move on to how this connects with the new NVR firmware release. On previous NVR versions, heat map, or should I actually rather say historically, heat map analytics were only available through the IP camera's web interface. However, with firmware version 1.4.12, we now bring you the ability to set up heat map analytics directly on the NVR. We've also taken it a step further by giving you the tools to pull the heat map stats directly from the NVR in the form of a snapshot overlaid with the heat map color-coded map. Okay, so it's also an exciting feature that was previously only on the camera's web interface, now on the NVR itself. Our next feature, or let's move on to our next feature. So our NVRs offer a wide variety of triggers that you can configure to react to specific events. But what happens if you need to temporarily disable some of these triggers? So for example, let's say you're a store owner and you want to stop receiving notifications and emails while you're at the store. It's similar to an alarm system. When you arrive at work, you disarm the alarm. When you leave, you arm the alarm again. For those of you familiar with our NVR, we have a feature called Burglar Alarm. When this feature is enabled, you can set specific camera triggers to automatically become active or inactive based on the state of the NVR's burglar alarm. We offer several methods to arm and disarm the NVR's burglar alarm, one of them being the Cam2 application, and the second leads me into explaining the improved alarm feature, the improved burglar alarm feature with NVR firmware version 1.4.12. So previously, on previous firmware versions, you could use an input sensor connected to one of the NVR's alarm inputs. This input could be linked to an external device, such as an alarm system, allowing you to create a scenario where arming and disarming the alarm system would also arm and disarm the burglar alarm on the NVR. But what if your NVR doesn't have any alarm inputs? Or what if your NVR is far away from your external device? How can you arm and disarm the NVR's burglar alarm in these situations? We are now introducing you, with the ability to select any available alarm input on the system. This could be from a camera with an alarm input, or even one of our I/O sensor expansion boxes, a DV5 RPN 5, and our I/O 1606. Simply select your preferred option from the drop-down list and make the necessary physical connections. And I believe this has been a big request from you guys, so a big thank you to our engineers for making this happen. Okay, we're making some good progress. I hope you guys are still with me. The next feature is an improvement related to combined alerts. And for those of you who may not be familiar with this feature, a combined alert refers to an alert that is triggered by multiple events or conditions occurring simultaneously or in combination. So for example, a combined alert might be triggered if motion detection is activated on one camera and at the same time line crossing detection is triggered on a different camera. There are many ways to utilize the combined alert feature, and no matter how you choose to implement it, a combined alert could trigger various responses, such as push notifications to the mobile application, email alerts, we can do video pop-ups, we can hit buzzers on the NVRs, We can activate additional system actions such as PTZ, presets, recordings, or even alarm outputs through a combined alert. With firmware version 1.4.12, we've enhanced this feature even further by enabling you to select visual and audio alerts on our active deterrence cameras as additional triggers. So now with 1.4.12, you're able to select audio or visual alert if you have any active deterrence cameras connected to your system as part of a response to a combined alert. Okay, so for those of you who may have missed the roadmap, we are launching 3 new IP-based horn speakers. We have 2 outdoor variants, which differ in size, and we're also introducing an indoor wall speaker. Please look out for the official product release coming within the next month or so. But today, I would like to focus on the integration of these new IP speakers with NVR firmware version 1.4.12. First of all, you connect the IP speaker to the NVR just like an IP camera. Once it's added to the NVR, you need to virtually link it either to the NVR itself, where it will function as a speaker connected to the NVR's audio output, or to an IP camera, where it acts as the audio output for that specific camera. When the IP speaker is linked to the NVR, it functions to serve as a voice broadcasting device. When the IP speaker is linked to an IP camera, it functions as both a voice broadcasting device and as an audio alert in response to any analytical event. So let's walk you through the entire process of integrating the IP speaker with the NVR, starting with how to add the speaker to the NVR. We've added a new section for the IP speaker, which can be found by going to the settings and selecting camera, and you'll see a new section for IP speakers directly under PTZ. Let's go check out Edit IP Speaker. Any IP speaker connected to your NVR will be displayed here, but let's go ahead and add a new IP speaker. So we click on Add to bring up the Add IP Speaker menu. Then we click Refresh to allow the NVR to search for any IP speakers that are on the same network. Any IP speakers found will be displayed over here. So click on the IP speaker that you want to add, and it will automatically populate the information below, leaving you to fill in the password. After entering the password, the next important step is establishing the linkage. Why is it important? Because remember, I told you that you can link the IP speaker to a connected camera, regardless of whether the camera has an I/O or not, or you can link it to you can link the speaker directly to the NVR. Also, as explained, there are practical differences between linking the IP speaker to the camera and linking it to the NVR. So let's go through both options now, starting with linking to the camera. And for this example, I'm going to link it to the camera called AD Showroom. Once the speaker is added, it will appear in the device list showing you the IP speaker name, the address, the speaker status, and to what device the speaker is linked to. You can also edit the speaker name by clicking on the edit button, and you can change the name at any point in time. Now we've successfully added the speaker. Let's take a look at the options available for selecting sound files to play through the speaker as a trigger based on analytical event. So we want to head over to Events and Analytics, and then we want to go to the Audio menu. From there, we want to select Local Audio Alarm. At this point, it's important to note that any custom audio file you want to play through the IP speaker must be loaded onto the NVR, as the NVR acts as the bridge between your IP speaker and the camera. All right. So by adding WAV files to your local alarm, you're essentially loading these files onto the NVR itself. Any files uploaded to the local audio alarm will be available for selection when choosing which sound files should play through the IP speaker. You can also add additional files using a USB flash disk, or by logging on via the web interface, you can load directly from your computer. Now that we've custom audio files loaded, let's go explore how to automatically trigger a sound alert based on analytical rule. So we'll move over to our analytics setup menu. Important to note that we link the IP speaker specifically to the AD showroom camera. Therefore, only the AD showroom camera will be able to utilize the speaker for now. Future or the next firmware release will give you the ability to select any IP speaker as a reaction on any camera, no matter what it's linked to. So no matter what analytical rule you've set up for the AD showroom camera, the IP speaker will automatically appear in the trigger menu. Over here. Okay, along obviously with all the other triggers that you are already familiar with. So for this line crossing rule, if you want to play a specific sound, simply click on the drop-down menu to select the sound file to play when a line crossing event occurs. I want you to notice that both files that were uploaded to the NVR are available for selection. I actually forgot to share my screen with sound, so if you don't mind, let me just go back and reshare. Just give me 1 second.
In the meantime, I will say, sorry to barge in, regarding IP speakers, all of you professional SR partner will naturally get a full product brief about the new IP speakers. It's in the works. The product is supposed to be launched next month, but you will get a full product brief that explains the product from any angle, including all protocol that it supports, all usage and markets you can use with it, as even as a standalone device, not even related to security, but also in conjunction with provisional SR NVRs and IP cameras. This will be sent to you separately.
Thanks, Ami. All right, so let's just see that in action. So we've set up a line crossing event, and the reaction would be to play the sound that I've selected, as well as I've also chosen to pop up the image large on the screen just for graphical representation. So here is the line crossing when the person comes.
Get out.
The sound automatically plays, and we get our also video pop-up. Did you hear that, Ami, by the way?
Loud and clear.
Okay. When you hear it in person, it is that specific sound was very effective and scary. The whole office upstairs literally crapped themselves. All right, so now let's look at linking the speaker to the NVR. So let's go back to the IP speaker edit menu. And I will point out that at any stage, you can change the linkage of the connected speaker by going and selecting edit. And then we can go and choose, for this obviously example, we want to choose our NVR. So when the speaker is linked to the NVR, it acts as a voice broadcast device. And an easy way for me to demonstrate this is by logging into the NVR's web interface and activating the NVR audio out. This way, when I speak into my laptop, the audio will be routed through the NVR and played onto the IP speaker. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Cool. So as Ami said, please look out for the product release coming next month. It's quite an exciting one and a great addition to our ecosystem. So we are well more than halfway, so thank you for bearing with us or bearing with me. And I need to ask you a question. Do you often find yourself needing to connect to an IP camera from a remote location or to an NVR. So, in other words, maybe I should rephrase it. I don't think it came out properly, but you often find yourself needing to connect to an IP camera from a remote location to an NVR. Does the mere thought of it make you cringe, knowing the challenges that lie ahead? Like wrestling with port forwarding, creating and managing DDNS accounts, applying for public static IP addresses, chasing clients for their router login details. Like, we get it, it's a major hassle that nobody enjoys. What if I told you there was an easier way with Provision ISR, where you've got a solution to simplify the process and eliminate these headaches for good? So I'd like to introduce you auto report on the NVR. Let's say you have a scenario where you need to connect 16 cameras to an NVR, all from remote locations, using traditional methods. Let's say on average, one device takes 15 minutes to set up. If you need to do this 16 times, that equates to 240 minutes or 4 hours worth of work. Taking the exact same scenario, but now using auto report, what would you do if I told you that it would take roughly 15 minutes to do the same setup? How is that even possible? So, with traditional methods, traditional methods require you to configure each remote device individually. This involves providing potentially a static IP address or a DDNS address or RTSP address, followed by setting up port forwarding on each router at each location. On top of that, you need to configure the remote device's credentials in the central system, and in this case, the central system is the NVR, so that it can actively search for and connect to these remote devices. Okay. With auto report, we only require one static IP address or a single DDNS address at the NVR. Once you've obtained this, we configure the devices with the NVR static IP or DDNS address and port number, and we simply assign a unique ID to each device. In this approach, we reverse the roles. Instead of the NVR searching for the device, we are configuring the devices to report to the NVR by assigning the NVR static IP and port number to each device. When the device comes online, it automatically reports to the NVR. Once it's made a connection, it communicates saying, hey, I'm device ID number so-and-so, what do you want to do with me? The NVR doesn't need to worry about the device's local network configuration, and the devices obviously the device I've lost my train of thought again. The NVR doesn't need to worry about the device's local network configuration. As long as there's an internet connection and the device is set up to report to the NVR, when the device comes online, it starts communicating automatically. So it's important to understand that there are certain preconditions that must be met for auto report to work. However, there's no need to worry, as the required setup on the NVR and the router is a one-time process. Okay, so for the NVR, you need to ensure that the IP address is set to static. Also, you need to identify the auto report port number, and you can change it if necessary. For the router, you'll need to obtain either a public IP address from your ISP or your internet service provider, or if you don't have a static IP, you can use a free DNS service available directly on our NVR. Regardless of whether you use a static IP or DDNS, you'll need to configure port forwarding once on the router to forward the auto report port number of the NVR. Once this one-time setups are complete, on the device side is straightforward configuration. Firstly, you need to provide the device with the router's public IP address or DDNS domain, followed by the auto report port number. Next, you assign the device a unique ID number. With these three simple steps, the device is ready to communicate with the NVR when it comes online. Let's quickly go through now where you can find the port settings of the NVR to get you the auto report port number. So you can go to settings and select network, and then select network again, and then you'll see there's an option that says port. Click on that, and this is a list of all relevant ports related to this NVR. By default, the auto report number is set to 2009. However, you can modify it through this menu. Remember, you just will need to port forward this port number on the router. Now let's move on to the IP device side. We need to provide the NVR static IP or DDNS address, as well as the port number to this IP device. And to do this, you log into the web interface of the camera, and you head over to config and locate network settings. And within these settings, there is auto report. You're going to click on that, and you only want to enable auto report, followed by entering the NVR's auto report port number, then the router's public static IP address or DDNS domain name. Okay, and then you can give this device an ID. In this case, it's device ID 101. Now, when the device comes online, it should report to the NVR and identify itself as device number 101. Let's head over to the NVR and see how to add the device via auto report. So within the Manage Camera menu, we can click on the plus button to add a new device. We want to select Auto Report. Any device set to auto report to this NVR that comes online will that has not been added will appear here. Notice the device ID we configured, the number 101 appears here. And like any other IP camera, before adding the device, you must input the device's password. And you also may want to test the connection before you add the camera to the NVR. You can do so there as well. And once you're happy, simply click Add. The device will be added to the NVR and come online within a few seconds, just like adding any other camera locally. Now let's go and view the camera and check it out on our live screen. So we can go to our camera and drag it to the first window, and it responds just like a camera that's been added locally. You won't even know that it's a remote location. So I hope the guys that are familiar with the VMS auto report and they've used it with auto report are excited about this, because I know we are at the office pretty excited about this feature. So also on previous firmware versions, you could activate a Provision ISR device directly from the NVR, but only if they were within the same network range. The next feature is a great feature for those who do not have access to a laptop with IP Tool Manager, because now with firmware version 1.4.12, you can activate any Provision ISR IP device directly from the NVR, even if the device is outside of the network range. Once you have activated, you can also change the IP address as well to bring it within the network range. So this is just another convenient feature brought to you by Provision ISR. The next improved feature is related to PTZ cameras, and more specifically Park Action. And for those of you who don't know Park Action on a PTZ camera refers to a feature that allows the camera to automatically return to a predefined position or start a specific action after a period of inactivity. So in practice, this means that after manually operating the PTZ, the camera can be instructed to resume a task after a defined period of inactivity. So the tasks can include returning to a preset position, starting a cruise, performing tracing, performing random scanning, or even conducting boundary scanning. So historically, these Park Actions instructions could only be set from the camera's web interface. Now with firmware version 1.4.12, you can decide that the PTZ's Park Action directly on the NVR. Okay, the next feature is related to the fisheye camera. So firstly, the fisheye dewarping is supported by all NVR models with face recognition. An easy way to identify if your NVR model includes face recognition is by checking if there's an F for face in the model number. With the last firmware update, version 1.4.10, the local dewarping functionality for fisheye cameras was removed from all 12 megapixel 32 channel models. Okay, I know it caused a bit of frustration. So with firmware version 1.4.12, we're bringing it back. We're bringing back the dewarping functionality to all the 12 megapixel 32 channel machines. So that's an announcement / improved feature. Okay. And a new feature relating to the fisheye camera, specifically the 6 megapixel, so the FER 360 V3 model, as well as the new 12 megapixel models. Both of these models feature DDA analytics, which is human object recognition based, and it's based on line crossing, sterile area, and object counting. So naturally, we want to give you the ability to set up and create these triggers for such events through the NVR. Let's go check out a video which includes showcasing the dewarping capabilities of the fisheye camera, for those of you that haven't seen it before, as well as showcasing the DDA analytics in conjunction with the fisheye camera and our NVR. So let's start off with the dewarping. And you can dewarp the fisheye camera in two ways. Either hover over the channel and select the eye icon, or right click on the channel and select fisheye. Either option will bring you to the menu where you can first select your installation mode, whether it's the camera's how the camera's mounted, ceiling mount, wall mounted, desk mounted, etc. Next, you can toggle through the display modes to view different dewarped perspectives. You'll notice that the dewarped camera appears in a single window channel. If you double click on the window, you can enlarge it. Once it's enlarged, you can actually manually adjust the positions of each window, almost like a manual PTZ. So any of the windows you can manually move around and wherever you need to see. And you can see dewarping the fisheye image creates a more immersive viewing experience for the user. And by the way, this dewarping is also available on playback as well, not just on live view. And let's move on to the analytics and how they perform on the fisheye camera. So remember, the fisheye camera supports line crossing, sterile area, and object counting, all based on human recognition. So even with the unique fisheye perspective, the AI is intelligent enough to accurately recognize humans, and instead of placing an object box around the entire body, as a conventional camera would, it adapts to the fisheye perspective by placing the object box around the human's head. So this obviously ensures precise detection and tracking. This also means that you can rely on it for detailed surveillance in complex environments without missing key details, and this makes it ideal for spaces like retail environments or large open areas where precise human detection is crucial for analytics. Okay, we're almost done. We've got two more features to go. So the next feature is related to ONVIF, specifically Profile M. For those of you that don't know ONVIF and don't know Profile M, I'll just run through it for you quickly. So what is ONVIF? ONVIF promotes compatibility between IP-based security products for seamless integration across manufacturers, devices, and platforms. Then what is Profile M? Profile M is an ONVIF standard designed for analytic applications, focusing on standardized metadata and event handling. So this year, ProVision ISR introduced ONVIF Profile M into our cameras. This meant that using our camera's onboard analytics, metadata and AI events can now be sent directly to third-party VMS or PSIM systems. With the release of firmware version 1.4.12, we're taking the step further by bringing ONVIF Profile M to our NVRs. Now, our NVRs can send metadata and AI events directly to third-party VMS or PSIM softwares. So how does it actually work? If you didn't know, our newer NVRs feature a powerful AI engine. This AI engine enables DDA analytics to be performed directly on the NVR itself, even for connected third-party cameras. So with Profile M, any AI event generated by the AI engine can now seamlessly integrate with third-party VMS or PSIM software. But there's more. ONVIF Profile M also enables our NVRs to receive analytic events from conformant third-party cameras. That's right. Analytics from ONVIF Profile M compatible third-party cameras can now send metadata and AI events directly to our NVRs. On top of that, you can use our ProVision ISR NVR's native triggers to respond to and record these events effortlessly. And I want to show you how that's done. So to begin, we want to add the third-party camera via the ONVIF protocol. And this is similar to adding a ProVision ISR camera. So within your Manage Camera menu, you can click on the plus button to add a new device. To add a camera via ONVIF, you want to add it manually. So you click on Add Manually, and then we're going to enter the IP address of the camera. And for protocol, it's vitally important for you to select ONVIF. Then you can input the camera's username and password. Once that's done, you can click Add to add the camera and complete the process. The camera will come online within a few seconds, and you'll see that it's communicating via the ONVIF protocol. Now let's set up a trigger. It's important to note that when using third-party analytics, to send events to our NVR, the analytic rule must first be enabled and configured via the camera's web interface. So for this demonstration, I've already pre-configured a sterile area analytic rule on a third-party camera via its web interface. So similar to setting up a ProVision ISR analytic trigger, cameras added via ONVIF M are also accessible within the analytics menu. So we're going to go to the analytics menu and then select perimeter monitoring. Then we want to select your third-party camera. Once you've selected your third-party camera, you want to choose your analytic rule that you've configured on the camera itself. In this case, it's the sterile area. And since the analytic rule is defined on the camera's web interface, there's no need to actually enable it on this NVR. All you need to do is navigate to the trigger page. And from here, you can select any of the native ProVision ISR triggers, such as, I'll repeat myself, snapshots, push notification, buzzers, set recordings, trigger alarm outputs, PTZs, you name it, sound alerts from the new IP speakers. Okay, so now let's see it in action. So I've enabled a video pop-up notification to trigger when an object enters a sterile area on our ONVIF Profile M conformance camera, which is this camera over here. So when the person walks into the sterile area, we get our pop-up. As you can see, the system recognizes the trigger as an analytical event as it's indicated by the analytical event icon. You can also search for events that occurred on third-party cameras by navigating to Search and Backup. So go to click on the menu, click Search and Backup, and then select by event. On the left-hand side, you can define the search date and time range, followed by selecting the specific camera or cameras that you want to search or include. In this case, I've selected the third-party camera and I've hit search. And as you can see, all recorded events are marked as analytics. And they were triggered based on analytics data coming from the third-party camera. So this seamless integration between third-party devices and Provision ISR for me is revolutionary. It's a true game changer for anyone connecting third-party cameras to our NVRs. The next improved feature is related to P2P support for Safari browsers in macOS. We're excited to announce an enhanced P2P experience for Safari users on macOS with the release of version 1.4.12. This update includes a new and improved plugin enabling seamless connectivity to Provision ISR-cloud.com and ensuring effortless access to your NVR through Safari on any Mac. This is our last feature, and it's about Smart Supplement Lite, which is a feature on all our hybrid cameras. And for those of you who don't know hybrid cameras, our hybrid cameras have both infrared LEDs for black and white images at night, as well as white LEDs which provide color images at night. You may ask yourself, why would I need both IR and white LED technology on a camera? Well, the activation of white LED for color at night can pose light pollution challenges, especially in installations facing sensitive areas like bedrooms or hospitals, where minimizing disturbances is crucial. Also, in scenarios requiring camera discreteness, the visibility of the white light may obviously be undesirable, as it will give away that there's a camera there. So to address these concerns, we've introduced hybrid light. How does hybrid light work? Well, how does Smart Supplement Light work? When Smart Supplement Light is enabled in inadequate ambient light, by default, the camera will operate discreetly in IR mode or in IR illumination, providing images in black and white. However, if an object appears anywhere in the field of view, the system will automatically switch on the white LEDs, providing the color at night images, and then turn off when the event has ended. So what is the improvement with Smart Supplement Light? We've made the Smart Supplement Light, even more advanced. Now you can specify which types of objects, such as humans, 4- or 2-wheel vehicles, will trigger the white LED lights. You also have the option to activate the white LEDs only when the selected object enters a designated area, and you can draw up to 4 areas in your field of view. Now, only when the specific object enters the area or specific area, the white LED will turn on, providing color at night images. Plus, you can set how long the white LEDs stay on after the object leaves the area of interest. So this feature is perfect for scenarios like monitoring streets. So for example, you can set the camera to ignore vehicles and only turn on the white LEDs when a human is detected. Let me show you how simple it is to set up. So the Smart Supplement Light settings can be found in the camera image settings. So we go to settings and we navigate through to camera and click on image, and then you'll see Smart Supplement Light. I just want you to note that I did record this on a very early beta version of the NVR local interface. In the final version, you will be able to select your specific camera from a drop-down list. But nevertheless, once you've selected the camera, you can configure the following. You can set the duration for how long the white LED remains on after the object leaves the defined area. You can also define your object detection, meaning which objects must be detected in order to turn on the white LED. And note that detecting humans is mandatory and cannot be unselected. And lastly, you can define up to 4 areas within your field of view. The rule will only be active if an object obviously enters any of these areas. So let's go see it in action. When no objects are inside any of the predefined areas, the image remains in infrared mode, displaying in black and white. However, when an object, in this case a motorcycle, enters one of the defined areas, the white LEDs turn on within a second and the image switches to color. Once the object exits the defined area, the camera will revert back to the infrared mode after the set duration. I do have the video does carry on with other examples, so if you want to watch it once you receive this presentation, please go ahead and do so. It's actually quite interesting. And with that, Ami and everyone, I will conclude the presentation. I trust you found it engaging, and I hope you guys are excited for a lot of the new and improved features that are coming early next year.
Well done. Thank you very much. 55 minutes. Great job. Before we start our questions, for those of you that have to leave, thank you very much for joining us. And we hope to see you in our next webinars.